There are 3 reasons my team and I recommend to not use escalation clauses. If you're a seller and you have a multiple offer situation in West Hartford, we always advise our clients to say no escalation clauses when they are reviewing those final and best offers. Here's why. Buyers love to use escalation clauses in multi-offer situations. From a buyer perspective, there's a lot of pros and cons to it. We can spend a whole nother video on that. I'm focusing more on the seller's perspective in this video. At the same time, buyers like to use it because it protects them a little bit. It allows them to say, okay, we'll go $2,000 or $5,000 over your best offer. So it allows the buyer to feel more comfortable saying, okay, well, I didn't overpay by a ton. I'm willing to overpay by a little. So sometimes buyers want to use this strategy. So as a seller, if you cut that off in the beginning, there's a lot of advantages. Right? If we go back to all the agents that are putting in offers and we say, listen, seller has a highest and best deadline of X day at X time. We need to see the offer in writing, and they will not be considering escalation clauses. So put your best offer on the table, right? There's 3 very specific reasons we do this. Now, before I get into those reasons, if you have any questions on this, don't be shy. We get calls, emails, texts all the time from people watching these videos. My team and I are always happy to help, no matter what the situation. So now let's get right into it. So the first reason we recommend not requesting no escalation clauses, buyers hold back. Buyers do not put their best offer in when they know they can protect themselves with the escalation clause. When they can't use that as a crutch, they have to put their best, highest offer on the table and without protection of the escalation clause, without guessing. They have to guess, which makes them go higher. And if you're a buyer that has lost out on 3, 4, 5, 6 homes, well, you're going to be more aggressive, especially if you love the property. So it puts the seller in a lot better position from that perspective. Number 2, this is one a lot of people miss. Okay? Part of the escalation clause reads that the seller has to show the buyer their second best offer. They have to prove they got an offer so the buyer will go up. Well, here's the problem with that. If the buyer knows your second best offer, when inspections come in, the buyer knows how much they can ask for on in terms of a credit or repairs. They know what your next best is. Like you've taken your cards off the table. Like a lot of negotiating is leverage. And if you're showing them what the competition is, that gives them leverage moving forward in the transaction. You know, obviously, if you're one of the sellers that gets the cash offer with no inspections, that's a home run. However, that's not the majority in the marketplace. Those offers are few and far between, especially as the market's shifting a little bit and there's some more inventory creeping on, right? Most offers have to go through an inspection, a mortgage contingency, an appraisal sometimes. And when the buyer knows what leverage they have because they've seen your number 2 offer, they can see what types of contingencies were laced in that number 2 offer. Maybe the buyer had to sell their house. Maybe the buyer had a long inspection or an appraisal. Or they know that if that offer had additional contingencies, then they have some leverage and they can use that to reduce the price. You don't want the buyer seeing your second best offer. So that is reason number 2 why I recommend saying no escalation clause if you are a seller. And the last thing that I wrote down is, quite frankly, it's not binding. Essentially, they're saying they need to see the other offer, then they need to update the contract, write it, give you a deposit. Where an offer without an escalation clause, you simply sign it, the terms are all set out, and it can move forward a little easier. There's less changes that need to be made to get to the right contract. And in my experience, every step, especially in a fast-moving market where things change, buyers have the chance to change their mind. So those are 3 reasons that I don't recommend them on the sell side. I think the sellers lose a lot of leverage from my experience, from what I've seen. When they use escalation clause, I can understand why buyers like them. If you're a buyer, the main thing to consider is some sellers have that perspective right off the bat, and they're a little turned off by an escalation clause. They'd rather go with someone who's the sure thing, doesn't have to change any of the terms. So listen, real estate is very situational. This is something we weren't even talking about years ago. This is newer, past 4 or 5 years in the marketplace. If you ever have questions on your particular situation, and you're not working with a realtor already, if you are working with a realtor, they're your trusted resource. You got somebody by your side. Congratulations on that. You don't need me. If you're not working with a realtor, you're getting ready to dive into this process, you have questions, there's never any obligation. Like I said, my team and I, we are always happy to help. Shoot us a message, text, call, drop a comment below, and hope this information helps.